Good morning, boys and girls. Today we are going to wrap up the painting of The Sleeping Gypsy by Henry Rousseau. As we work today, you will respond in your response journals, and I will remind you when to pause this video so that you are able to respond in your journal. Please make sure that you have your journals ready to go so that when you hit pause, you can respond. There will be three parts to this lesson today. The first one is looking at the title and understanding that title and thinking about how that will help us understand the painting. The second part of the lesson is looking at how we can connect the poem from Giovanni that we read and also the painting and how these two connect. And the last part of this lesson is just wrapping up that original question about how does this painting build my knowledge. So let's go back and look at that title page here, the first part of this lesson. What I'd like you to do is think about these two questions. What does the title help you understand about the painting? What message does this painting convey? Cite evidence from the painting. Notice we're using the word cite just like we would tell you to cite evidence from a novel or from a passage. We're citing evidence, and we learned how to do this thinking about line, color, and shape. Thinking about how that line, color, and shape influences the painting, how it influences our mood or our feeling. We want to think about how we can cite evidence of the setting and what we learned about that, and thinking about citing evidence about the character and what we've learned about that. So again, I want you to do this because this whole entire lesson we went through each part not knowing what the title of this painting was. We finally find out that the title of this painting is Sleeping Gypsy. So as you pause the video, I want you thinking about that title, Sleeping Gypsy, and think about how that title now helps you understand the painting and what message does this painting convey. If you'd like some help with some sentence starters, here's how you might start some of your sentences. At this point, you can pause the video and answer these two questions in your response journal. Pause the video now. Great. Now I am going to give you just a little background information about Henry Rousseau so that you are able to connect Henry to the poem that we read by Giovanni. Henry Rousseau painted this work of art in 1897. He had been a tax collector in Paris, France. He began painting as an adult without ever taking any art lessons. He was devoted to his art and entered many exhibitions where art critics were horrible to him and ridiculed his work. They considered his painting to be too childlike and unrealistic, so his paintings didn't sell. Although younger artists, including Pablo Picasso, appreciated Rousseau's work. Henry lived in poverty. He never left Paris. He painted scenes of mountains, deserts, and jungles from what he saw during visits to the zoos, greenhouses, and conservatories of Paris parks. He did most of this from his own imagination. Okay, so now we have a little background information about Rousseau. Now our job next is to connect our information that we found out about the author, Giovanni, and her poem, and how she feels about books. And then we're going to take our information that we found out about Rousseau, the artist, and try to decide how they're related. Sometimes authors and visual artists treat related ideas in different ways. So our job now is to think, how do Henry Rousseau and Nicky Giovanni, Henry being the artist, Nicky Giovanni being the author, How do both of these people build your knowledge of ideas about imagination and reading? So really we're focusing on both of these, this artist and this author, and thinking about how they both feel about imagination and how that can help build our idea of imagination. So what's going to happen is I'm going to read you an excerpt, and then this excerpt is going to be from the poem, and then you're going to have to try to make the connection between this excerpt and how that ties into the painting of Rousseau and his background information that I just read to you. So let's give it a try. I'll make sure to pause the video, or make sure to pause the video after each time I read the excerpt. And we'll go over each one together after we're done. So the first excerpt is this: "You never know what troubled little girl needs a book." This comes directly from the poem. You never know what troubled little girl needs a book. So I want you to think about the author, this excerpt and this line from the poem, and how that might tie into the painting that we just learned about, and about the author and his life and how he feels about imagination. I'm going to pause the video, and I want you thinking about how that builds our knowledge of ideas about imagination and reading. Pause now. All right. So after reading that excerpt, and after thinking about the painting and thinking about the information we just learned about the artist, you may have said something like this. You may have thought of the fact that Giovanni suggests that she is a troubled little girl who needs a book to help her dream about happier places and a place to escape her troubles. And then you might have thought, that's very similar to Rousseau, who was very poor and was never able to see the places that he dreamed about, but he could explore them in his imagination and in his paintings. Let's look at that next excerpt. Give it a try. Think about how these two are connected, the painting and this line from the poem. "Where I would sit on the front porch in a gray glider and dream of a world far away." How is this excerpt from the poem similar to Rousseau and his painting? Pause now. So hopefully you wrote something like this. In her poem, Giovanni says that the lions and the witches in the wardrobe won't hurt her. Well, Rousseau's lion in his picture or painting doesn't seem interested in hurting the woman. In the places that we imagine, we can experience things that might be dangerous while staying safe. All right, I think you're starting to get to be experts on this now. Let's read this last excerpt and see if we can make a connection between the two. So the last excerpt is this: "But there was a world somewhere out there, and Mrs. Long opened that wardrobe. But no lions or witches scared me. I went through knowing there would be spring." Pause now to make the connection between the painting and the excerpt. Okay, so hopefully you have something written down about how both Giovanni and Rousseau dream of a world far away. Remember how Rousseau said he never visited any other place than Paris, and he went to zoos and conservatories and things like that to learn about things, but those were the things he had to learn about, and then he had to actually use his imagination to create this new other world through painting. So through poetry and art together, they used their imaginations, and they used their imaginations to travel wherever they wanted. All right, boys and girls, This is your last part. You are going to head into your knowledge section of your journal, and we are going to wrap up this lesson by doing 2 reflection questions. The first reflection question is this: how does this painting build my knowledge? How does this painting build my knowledge? And lastly, you're going to answer the second question in your knowledge section of your journal. In Module 0, which routine was most challenging? Which was the most helpful in building your understanding? If you go back and think about the different types of routines that we went through, you may think of things like the stop and jot or the quick writes, maybe even just doing a Socratic seminar. Maybe it's, if I go back and look to some of the things that we did was the notice and wonder. Maybe that was another strategy. So I want you thinking about the strategies that we've used so far in this module to help us build our understanding. I'm just going through here so that you can kind of see those different, here was a gallery walk that we did. So all the way back from even when we went through and did this with the poetry, with the poems, right? So think of all the different ways that we've learned throughout this module. And I want you to think about which was the most helpful in building your understanding and which one was the most challenging for you. So boys and girls, once you have all of that set and your journals are just the way you want them, we will begin grading these journals for you soon. So make sure that this is the last of your entries in your journal. Have a great day.